A Course in Miracles. Lesson 15. Why You Can't Let It Go. Everyone tells you time heals, that one day it'll fade on its own. It won't. Not the way they mean. The thing you can't get over isn't sitting in the past, slowly wearing down. It's being made fresh by you every time it crosses your mind. You're not failing to let go of it. You're building it again and handing it back to yourself. Pick the thing your mind keeps returning to. You don't have to dig for it. It's already there. The one that shows up when the room goes quiet. Bring it up now. Notice how fast it arrives. The place. Who was there? What was said? Or what wasn't? The whole scene assembles in under a second, complete, like opening a photo you've looked at 1,000 times. It feels like you're seeing something that happened, a record, pulled from storage and played back. It isn't. Nothing was stored. Nothing was played. You built that scene a moment ago, out of fragments, and called it remembering. The last audiobook showed that what you'd always felt as one thing was really two: the event and the meaning you added on top of it. Today we follow that thread to where the additions come from. Every memory you've replayed was an image you made, and you've been mistaking the image for the actual thing. Now, let's sit down and dig deep into today's audiobook. Think about what a recording actually is. You press play and the same thing comes out every time, identical, frame for frame. That is not what memory does, not even close. A memory isn't filed away whole, it's kept as scattered pieces. A face, a phrase, the temperature of the room, the feeling you walked away with. When you remember, your mind grabs those pieces and assembles them into a scene on the spot. What you see is built new each time you ask for it. It works this way because the mind is efficient, not careful. Storing every moment in full would be impossible, so it keeps the gist and rebuilds the detail on demand, the way a good storyteller fills in a scene they only half remember. That's useful for getting through a day. It's terrible for telling you the truth about what happened. This is why the same memory never sits still. Every time you rebuild it, you change it a little. You sand down what's inconvenient. You sharpen what stung. You slip in a line nobody actually said, but that fits how it felt. The version you carry now has been through this 100 times. It's a copy of a copy of a copy, and you've been treating it as the original. It's why two people who stood in the same room will swear to completely different evenings. Neither one is lying. Each built a different scene from different pieces, and each one trusts the build. There's no master tape to settle it. There never was. And it's why the memory that hurts most is often the one furthest from what happened. The more you return to it, the more your mind bends it toward the feeling. Darker, sharper, more final than the actual moment ever was. You haven't been keeping a wound open. You've been redrawing it, a little worse, every single time you look. Picture a family that argues every holiday about one dinner from years ago. Same table, same night. 5 people, 5 completely different versions, each one certain. Nobody is being dishonest. They're just reading from 5 paintings, not one photograph. That's how the picture works. Now look at who's in it. Look at the person in that memory. Really look. You're not seeing them. You're seeing your picture of them. Assembled from pieces, frozen at one moment, colored by everything you've felt about them since. The actual person was always more than the picture could hold. contradictions you edited out, mornings you never saw, a whole inner life that didn't fit your frame. You've never been in contact with the person, only with the portrait. And the portrait doesn't age. The real person kept changing. They grew, softened, forgot things you still carry, turned into someone who might not even recognize the version you're holding. But your image stayed exactly where you left it. You've been relating to a painting while the sitter walked off years ago. You've felt this if you've ever run into someone after a decade. The person in front of you barely matches the one you'd been carrying. Same name, different human. For a few seconds it's disorienting because the real one is standing there contradicting your picture to your face. Then, usually, you go right back to the picture. It's the easier thing to hold. It cuts closer than that. The hardest image you carry is usually the one of yourself. The version of you who did the thing you can't forgive, who said it, missed it, failed at it. You look at that picture and the shame lands fresh, as if it's happening right now. But that person doesn't exist either. They're a portrait too, frozen at your worst moment, painted entirely by you, and kept on the wall where you'd see it first thing every morning. So you end up doing something strange without realizing it. You keep arguing with people who already changed. You keep condemning a version of yourself who's long gone. All of it aimed at pictures. None of it reaching anyone real. This is why the conversations you replay never resolve. You can't reach an agreement with a painting. It only ever says what you painted it to say. The people in your head are not the people. They never were. And the moment you see that even one of them is a picture you made, something starts to come loose. So why can't you let it go? Because you've been trying to release the wrong thing. You've been aiming at the event, the moment, the loss, the conversation that went wrong. But the event is over. It ended. It isn't anywhere anymore. There's nothing left of it to put down. What you're actually holding is the image. And the image isn't in the past. It's here, now, rebuilt every time you think of it. You haven't been failing to set down something heavy. You've been picking it back up, repainting it, and handing it to yourself again. Then wondering why your arms are always full. The replay isn't keeping the moment alive. The moment is already gone. The replay is keeping the picture alive. And the picture only exists for as long as you keep making it. Part of you keeps painting on purpose. Setting the picture down can feel like losing the person inside it, or like letting yourself off a hook you've decided you deserve to stay on. So the brush keeps moving. The repainting feels like loyalty, or like fairness. It's neither. It's just a picture, kept alive by a hand that won't stop. The same machinery runs the other way too. The future you brace for, the conversation you're dreading, the outcome you've already decided is coming. That's a picture as well. You built it a second ago, out of old pieces, and now you're reacting to it as if it were real. It hasn't happened. It may never happen. You're flinching at a painting of something that doesn't exist yet. This is the whole pattern, working in both directions, all day long. Behind you and ahead of you, the same hand painting. And there's a strange opening in it. Catch one of these as a picture. Not the thing itself, but a picture of the thing, made by you right now. The moment you do, the feeling welded to it loosens. Not because you forced it to, because you stopped mistaking the image for something happening to you. Take down one picture, and you find the feelings you were sure were facts come down with it. Now let's do the actual practice. A note before we start. This one can reach into tender places, so we're going to keep it deliberately small. Use ordinary objects around you, not your hardest memory, not the person you've lost, not the moment that still takes the air out of the room. Those are real, and they deserve far more than a 1-minute exercise. If you're in fresh grief or acute distress right now, set this aside entirely. It isn't for that. What follows is for the ordinary furniture of your day. The exercise comes straight from the original. Sit where you are and let your eyes move slowly around the room. Let them land on something, anything, a lamp, a cup, the edge of the doorway. Settle your gaze on it and say to yourself slowly, "This lamp is an image that I have made." Then let your eyes move to the next thing. "That window is an image that I have made." Say it slowly. Mean it as a plain statement, not a clever trick. Keep it random. Don't hunt for meaningful objects. The cup, the wall, your own hand resting on your knee, they all count exactly the same. Move through 5 or 6 things this way. 1 line each, no rushing. Do this for less than a minute, then stop. 3 or 4 short periods across the day is plenty. There's no need to go past that. If it feels steady, you can try one gentle extension at the end. Let your eyes soften. Bring to mind one ordinary person, not a charged one, just someone from your day. Say the same line about the picture of them in your head. "This is an image that I have made." Then bring your attention back to the room. The point isn't to feel different. The point is to catch yourself, just once, in the act of making the picture. For 14 practices now, you've been catching the mind in the act. First, it was meaning layered onto objects that don't carry any. Then, a lens you built and forgot was yours. Then, realizing you'd been reading files instead of seeing what was in front of you. Then, a narrator you mistook for your own thinking. Then, an explanation for your feelings that arrived too fast to be true. Then, planted evidence pretending to be discovered. Then, old footage from your past projected onto every surface. Then, a mind so full of old material that the present couldn't get in. Then, a mind that delivers stored versions of everything instead of fresh sight. Then, thoughts arriving as filler with no process behind them, sounding like conclusions. Then, a mood that paints the day before you arrive. Then, every adjective you'd ever used about the world turned out to be something you wrote. Then, the labels turned out to be guards, protecting the writer from being seen as a construction. Then, 2 things you'd always treated as one: the event and the meaning you added on top of it. Each time, the same discovery. The thing your mind produced looked so much like reality that you never thought to check. This practice catches one more: the memories you keep replaying, the people you carry in your head, the futures you flinch at before they arrive. Every one of them is an image you made, not a window onto something real. A picture painted by you, mistaken for the thing itself. The past you've been trying to release was never out behind you, waiting to fade. It's been here the whole time, in your hands, because you're the one who keeps making it. That's the hard part. It's also the way out. Nobody can take the picture down for you. but nobody else has to. You hung it. You can stop repainting it. You were never holding on to the moment. You were holding on to a picture of it. And a picture can be set down. Next, the pictures stop looking harmless. You've been treating most of your thoughts as background noise, passing images that don't do anything, that drift through and fade. Not one of them is idle. Every picture you hold is doing something to you right now, shaping what you see next, and the ones you've written off as nothing are doing the most. The next audiobook shows you why not a single thought you have is neutral. Subscribe so you don't miss it.